over 203,000 migrants crossed the southern border in July.
Have been caught.
If this trend continues, 2021 will break the record for most illegal crossings.
That's weird. I notice you're not, Eric, if you don't mind. I notice that you're not the got away, known, and recorded. That number's not in red. So the 203,000 are the ones that are caught. So you could argue that more are being caught. That doesn't necessarily mean that more are crossing, just that they're not being successful. I noticed you didn't make the the gotaways known and recorded. That's not red text, so that makes me assume, knowing you and your network, that if we looked up that number for similar months, it would be lower or strikingly similar. Same with 78 deceased, 7,867 non-violations. You mean Hispanic people that were pulled over for driving while Hispanic? And 1,000 are outstanding. Well, credit where credit is due. These people are amazing. I think the ones that were able to, shimmy up the slat fence and climb over the edge, that's impressive. That's outstanding. Let's see. I have to look something up now. Let's see. Known got away southern border crossings 2020 July, something like that. Rising border control back in the 90s. Okay. Let's see. I don't know where that statistic is coming from. Source Customs and Border Patrol. Okay. Southwest land border thing. Okay, here we go. Southwest border migration for year 2020. Let's look at 2019, shall we? Here's May and June. This is similar. Here you go. So here's Southwest border. Here's total apprehensions. May, June, July. This is 2019. 132,000, 94,000. Okay. Family units, single adults, and then unaccompanied aliens and children. Okay. This is 7,000, 5,000, 11,000 in May. All right, spike in May. Seems kind of normal. Unaccompanied. Is there a got away number? Escapes, claims as a related kind of southwest border migrant. Let's say, try this. This is for this month. Okay, so this is 20. Here's 2021. This is 2020. Is the dark orange. That's when. Here's COVID. So these are all the people. You combine this number and this number for the people who didn't cross and were in Mexico, and then the people who are coming now, and you basically get this number, or close here. It's 2018, 2019, 144,000 at the peak, 116. Okay, and then is the component. Let's see, demographic for the year there. Citizenship grouping, okay, authority. I don't know where the filter. What are filter options here? Okay, I'll have to look that one up. All right, so but I'm noticing that he's got. And by the way, up to 40,000 or 50,000 from the 2019 numbers. A little over 55,000 extra human beings after people, an entire year's worth of people were told to remain in in Mexico, and still the number was high. Interesting. All right.
Going back 60 years. Now, just moments ago, I had the opportunity to speak with Texas Senator Ted Cruz from the Rotunda.
Okay, the Rotunda of is that an area in Cancun or
About the border crisis. He cares.
El Rotundo is what they call it.
He cares deeply. Now, I started by asking him about the very scary HR1 S1 bill and why it's so important to bring him to the Senate, to the hearings, and take care of everything going on in.
What the fuck sentence was that? Bring him to the everything. It's why it's good. Ted Cruz, there, present, yum, yum, happy, happy.
Him to the Senate, to the hearings, and take care of everything going on in D.C.
As you know,
take care of. Yes, it's important to bring Ted Cruz to the committee that he's not on. What? And to help with everything that's going on in D.C. Jesus Christ.
the crisis at the border is unprecedented. It's the worst we've ever seen. And the Democrats don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to acknowledge the kids in cages, the Biden cages. They don't want to acknowledge that last week
The Biden cages.
we crossed the threshold of over 1 million illegal aliens coming.
You have a problem, Ted. One, they aren't the Biden cages. And the unaccompanied minor thing, both under Biden and under Obama, was actually legit unaccompanied minors. Under Trump, you would take children with their parents and intentionally separating them, making them unaccompanied, forcibly de-accompanying them. But you have a real problem here, Ted. On the one hand, Democrats know you're full of shit. On the other hand, the people that do actually believe you and that do actually support you would be for putting these children in cages. I mean, this is just I'm watching the talking point die of natural causes.
And just this year alone, just under Joe Biden in 6 months, that they don't want to acknowledge the rather stunning facts that came out this week, that in the city of McAllen, one Texas city, that the Biden administration has released over 7,000 illegal aliens.
That's the 7,000 number that we've heard.
Who were COVID positive. Just last week, the Biden administration released over.
Hold on. Now, I need to see this one too, because we've heard this. This is the third time we've heard this talking point. Let's see. 7,000 COVID immigrants positive. Texas border says more than 7,000 COVID positive migrants released since February. More than 1,500. Okay, let's see. This is the city of McAllen. This is local news. This is from them. McAllen, Texas. The city of McAllen announced that the location of the emergency temporary shelters for COVID-positive immigrants will change. On Monday, Hidalgo County and McAllen signed disaster declarations on local disaster regarding the recent spike in asylum-seeking migrants. The location of the temporary emergency shelters housing COVID-positive migrants will be moved from 23rd Street in McAllen to Hidalgo County property near Customs and Border Protections. A release also states the city is asking the federal government for relief due to the increase of individuals being released into the city by officials. I know y'all are angry, and we get the calls, we get the texts, we get the emails, McAllen Mayor Javier Villalobos said in a social media post. Please don't misplace your anger. It is not our commission that is responsible for this. They did what they had to do to protect each and every one of you. Since February of 2021, there have been over 7,000 confirmed COVID positive immigrants released into the city of McAllen by CBP, including over 1,500 new cases in the past 7 days. The Hidalgo County judge told Valley Centers the infection rate for migrants rose to a shocking 16%, doubling the numbers from last time. Both coaches indicate. All right, so CPB, the Customs and Border Patrol, which who do we always hear that the people at Customs and Border Patrol support as president? Who are they? Are they the Biden ones that want to release a bunch of people into the country for free? No. Let's see. This is Yahoo News. By the way, this is the story that according to Ted Cruz, no one wants to cover. This is Yahoo News. Drone footage reportedly shows up to 1,000 migrants being held under a bridge in Texas as the border crisis continues to grow. More than 1,500 coronavirus positive migrants released in 1 week into Texas border town. Border city in South Texas declared a local disaster this week as it struggles to respond to surging cases of coronavirus and migrants as thousands are released by the Border Patrol onto the street every week. Last week, a record high 7,000 migrants were released in downtown McAllen, where they are immediately tested for the coronavirus through a city contractor. More than 1,500 people tested positive over the past 7 days. Last week, a record high of 7,000. So this is the 7,000 migrants were released into downtown McAllen, where they were immediately tested in the coronavirus. More than 1,500 people tested positive over the past 7 days, according to the city document issued Wednesday, compared to a total of 7,000 confirmed cases over the past 5 months. Those who tested positive are told to quarantine for 2 days, but are ultimately released into the public. The city said in a statement that the shockingly large number of immigrants released by Customs and Border Patrol into the city overwhelmed Catholic Charities, which provides humanitarian service for the city of migrants. This significant change increases the threat. Catholic Charities Shelter downtown has taken in migrants released by federal Border Patrol authorities for 7 years, but has never seen numbers like those over the last 2 weeks. In early July, the shelter averaged 750 arrivals daily, increased to 1,100, up to 1,900 per day in the first few days of August. The center's only approved to hold 12,036 people at a time. Faced with a rapidly escalating surge of immigrants at the Texas-Mexico border, the city of McAllen's emergency management office coordinated with the city. Okay, that's where they're moving it to thing. To avoid releasing hundreds of people on the street every day, Mayor Javier Villalobos declared a local state of disaster to allow the city to get reimbursed by the county, by the country and state. I think county is what they meant, for costs incurred responding to the emergency. That includes renting a larger property several miles north, where far more people can be held at once. The trouble for McAllen is that its contractor overseeing coronavirus testing amongst migrants, the American Medical Response, leases city property downtown, complicating how migrants with and without the coronavirus will be transported to and from testing. So this is why, quote unquote, they're released onto the street, is because McAllen hired a contractor to test these folks for COVID, and they put the facility downtown. And then those contractors can't keep anybody. So if these people test positive, and these are people who, either have somebody, a relative, and they've got a report for an asylum hearing or those kind of things, they get tested, they're supposed to go home. They're supposed to go to their relative's house and quarantine for a while. The McAllen City Commission also instructed the city's emergency management office and city management to ask Hidalgo County to put up an emergency management facility. This is what they're talking about. Overwhelming number of migrants being released into the town. The commission also told the city that to ask the Biden administration for relief to deal with the escalating situation. So, if it's the federal government's problem, if this is not a normal aspect of this city, why are they having to ask the Biden administration for the help, for relief? One would think that if it was the federal government's job dealing with this part of it, they would somehow, I guess, it's hard to break down what they're talking about here. You would argue that they would just demand it. Passed through Texas City, McAllen approves setting up temporary emergency. This would go. Ted Cruz calls Biden's election COVID super spreader event. Because the emergency shelter for COVID-19, migrants to provide help. A viral claim gets Biden's COVID-19 travel and immigration. Claim COVID Delta is so deadly, Biden is restricting travel for Americans into Mexico, but is keeping the border open for illegal. Okay. Claim, here we go. This is the viral claim gets Biden's COVID-19 travel and immigration policies wrong. But, we just heard Don Jr. talk about this shit. It's just dumb. All right. So.
1,500 illegal aliens who were COVID positive in McAllen, Texas, one town in South Texas. They're doing this all across the country. This crisis is their creation.
Well, they're clearly not doing this across the country. McAllen is doing this across the country. McAllen set up its testing facility for newly released migrants downtown. So these folks that are allowed, to either go to a relative's house and await their asylum claim thing or any of that stuff, those folks, which aren't even the vast majority, these aren't the ones who are abducted, the ones who are caught, are the ones who are released, are the ones who are, the ones who sneak by and are missed. these are the ones who have processed through an asylum claim or processed for, trying to get an immigration visa or any of that stuff or green card. Those folks are getting processed and put through, and then they'll have a hearing. Until they have the hearing, they are in that area, so they're sent to a COVID testing thing, which is a part of being in that county. And then when they get tested, the people in McAllen have set up their testing facility in the middle of downtown.
The Democrats don't want to talk about it. They want
because governing is for assholes, apparently.
it up. Instead, what do they want to do? They want to ram through, as you noted, S1, what many of us are calling the Corrupt Politicians Act, which is an act for the federal government
to deny dark money in politics?
Over elections and to strike down every reasonable state-level voter integrity law, to strike down photo ID laws, to strike down...
Well, no. I mean, you obviously, voter ID is increasingly part of the bill, but it's going to work its way out that the legal challenges for the bill when it goes through is that the government will be responsible, if they want to keep that part of it, with supplying every citizen with a national ID card for free.
Prohibitions on ballot harvesting and the automatic...
I am, Varkfather, I will try to talk Steph and them into being on Twitch.
Register everyone who comes in contact with the government, including millions...
Thanks, Mary. I mean, we'll see if they'll have me.
...illegal aliens, including felons, because the Democrats, I think, understandably believe that if millions of illegal aliens and millions of felons are voting, they're likely to vote Democrat. And this is all about partisan politics.
Well, for the record, everybody who voted fraudulently that's been caught in the last election, including a man who murdered his wife, which I think you would consider a felony, and voted on her behalf, voted for Donald Trump. And because of that, the micro is the macro is the micro, I'm going to go ahead and reiterate my belief that if there was massive voter fraud, as you claim, and massive voter fraud as Trump claims, and massive voter fraud as Mike Pillow claims with no pants on, that all the people who voted fraudulently voted for Trump. Prove me wrong.
Rather than the interests and well-being...
Every time you prove that someone, unless you show me what their vote was, that, where you say a dead person voted or an underage person voted or an illegal immigrant voted, any of that stuff, anytime you say, we have proof that this, unless you show me what their vote is, I'm going to assume they voted for Trump. You're welcome.
Country.
I want to talk about this. President Biden told your state and told Florida, so told Texas and Florida, either help or get out of the way with regards to...
Yeah. Yes. Now, granted, Ted Cruz has done his part because when, people were freezing to death in his state, he had the decency to get out of the way. He went straight to Cancun where he could do the most good by just being clear of any, the worst thing is having someone who clearly is incapable of making a useful or, suggestion in an emergency. You don't want them anywhere near it when it happens. So thank you, Ted Cruz, for going to Cancun and saving, more lives would have been lost had you been in Texas.
COVID. What are your thoughts about him taking a shot at your governor and Governor DeSantis in Florida?
There's a Yiddish word, chutzpah, and Joe Biden. Is embodying chutzpah. If you look at COVID,
what does it mean? Tell them what it means. Tell them what you can't say. There's a Yiddish word, chutzpah. Tell them what chutzpah means. You can't, because if you say it, then you got to go, Biden's got balls, which is really what...
Blue states, the New Yorks and New Jerseys, have been train wrecks on COVID. You look...
Yeah, except the train wreck happened, and then they fixed the tracks and the trains, so there aren't any more train wrecks. And what you've seen in Texas and Florida was a bunch of trains crashed up north, and everybody said, oh, shit. There's a problem with the trains and the tracks, and Texas and Florida went, who gives a shit? We don't like trains anyways. And then they went off the track and killed people. So their train wrecks happened afterwards.
Governor Andrew Cuomo, who sent COVID-positive patients into nursing homes, costing the lives of tens of thousands of seniors in New York State. Then, according to Cuomo...
And Texas and Florida have passed laws against mask mandates, including in schools. Ask Asa Hutchinson how that's working out in his state.
Staff, he covered up and lied about the data. What did Joe Biden and all the Democrats do? They covered up for Cuomo. The corrupt corporate media covered up for Cuomo. They hailed him as a hero of COVID. You know what they hate? They hate red states like Texas and Florida, states that
No, if we hated states like Texas and Florida, we wouldn't say anything. Hate's a big word, Ted. Like, I hate your pinchy, weird head. I hate your oddly non-adult sounding voice. I hate your demeanor and nearly everything about you as a human being. Even with that hate, though, I don't want you to die. I don't. I'm not wishing death upon you. And I'm not wishing death on anyone in your state, especially those who are going to catch something because their fellow citizens don't give a fuck. If we hated the red states, we would shrug off this entire phase. Because we would know that the only people being killed by it are Trump loyalists who think the vaccines, make you magnetic, or contain adrenochrome or some nonsense, or are a plan also to kill you. That part I don't get. But if we hated these states, we just kind of wouldn't give a shit. We just pop some popcorn and watch you fuckers die. The reason people are upset is because, oddly enough, the weird blue states who you seem to think don't give a shit, are quite concerned about the lives of your constituents, more so than you are. Fucking hell.
defend freedom. They hate the fact that we reopened our schools, that we allowed small businesses to reopen.
Yeah, and look at your spike in kid illnesses from the Delta variant, dum-dum.
But they hate the fact that people are fleeing their failed socialist governments and coming to states like Texas and
Yeah, we're brokenhearted that we lost the Joe Rogan podcast.
Florida because people want to be free. We want our kids in schools, and my views are simple.
You know what you can be. You know what you want to be free of. Apparently, light and heat in a winter storm.
No mandates, no lockdowns, no school shutdowns, no vaccine mandates, no mask mandates. Joe Biden.
Yeah, but refrigerator trucks full of dead bodies, overrun ICUs, people who have heart attacks being denied beds in hospitals because there aren't any. Yeah.
And the heavy-handed
yes to
government
that.
needs to get off of forcing their mandates on the American people. We ought to respect people's freedom.
They're not making a mandate. There's no federal mandate on this stuff. There isn't. Fuck you, Ted Cruz. There is no mandate in Texas or Florida from the federal government. They're talking to your elected officials, pleading with them. These are the kind of assholes who think when Biden goes, please, 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 please get vaccinated, that's an order. It ain't. That's why please is the magic word.
And their individual responsibility.
You know what, Senator? I can officially say that's the first time I've ever heard Joe Biden has chutzpah. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, I mean, Eric, in all fairness, Ted has been a witness to Biden's chutzpah since his chutzpah had been sitting on Ted's forehead since January 20th, rent-free.
We really appreciate it. Busy man. And stay on that HR S1. Make sure that doesn't pass the Senate. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Hey.
Absolutely. Why would I want everyone in this country to be able to vote? Well, that was gross.